Hey guys and girls, it's Blackjack with 396 Guitars. We have a Precision Bass on the bench today. It is a pretty cool instrument. It's actually what I call a PJ, a true PJ. It's got a jazz bass bridge pickup and a standard P bass configuration. It's also active, so it's a pretty interesting little guitar. Let's get to work. This customer is new to me. Very cool though. Missing a knob. I already did a repair when I first evaluated the guitar. Of course, the output jack was a little messed up. Point of interest, this little guy right here. When I was building one of my guitars, you see that little guy right there. You don't see that very often, but every once in a while, you need that to pull and get better break angle. And it's always on the A string. One of my basses, I think it's my number 2 or my number 2. Hold on. Yeah, my number 2 bass. It's my jazz bass with a P bass neck. I had the same issue because Fender headstocks are so flat that you don't get the proper break angle on the A string. So when you're plucking that A string open, it tends to buzz because it doesn't have the proper break angle. That's what that neat little thing is. On mine, I actually put a second string tree on it because I couldn't source one of those in time for me to finish my build. This was many years ago when I was putting my P bass together. Very cool instrument. It is active. It's got batteries in it. It's a 5-bolt splayed neck plate. I'm not crazy about that setup. I don't know why Fender ever changed Leo Fender's, modern Fender changed Leo Fender's original design, because 4 bolts is more than enough. Pretty cool though. It works, but you know, if you ever wanted to put a new neck on this, you have to find the neck that takes the 5-bolt pattern. I don't dig that, because I like, you know, if your neck wears out or you don't want to go to the expense of changing all your frets, or your truss rod goes, you know, Katie Wampus on you, you just get a new neck and bolt it on. That was Leo Fender's whole thing. An instrument should be easily adjusted and repaired. And that's why all his guitars were bolt on. Because eventually, this part of the guitar is going to wear out. The bodies very rarely wear out. Electronics might, but you can replace that and solder in new gear. Anyway, I digress. Got a really dirty bass here. This guy plays guitar and bass. In fact, like I said, he dropped off 3 guitars, 2 guitars and a bass. So this is the last one we're working on. It needs a good scrub job. The neck is just absolutely caked up, all kinds of goop on there. Yeah, it's under my finger now. DNA, dirt, sweat, stuff gets on there, and it gets pushed in. The board is, well, damn dry, and so you know where we're going with that. Lots of dust and dirt and crap on there. We're going to have to really pay some attention to this. I'm not going to do a restoration on it. It's really a cleanup, a restring, and a setup more than anything, because he needs this guitar right away to play in a session. He's playing bass in a session soon. I checked some other things. Hardware is loose, so let's get to work. I'm not even going to, I already did some measurements and whatnot on it when I first got it. First thing we're going to do is de-string it. I know where we're going with this guitar. In fact, when I first got it, I actually made a truss rod adjustment while they were waiting, but we'll get to that later. We're taking the strings off, and he brought his own strings he had. He wants to put those on, no problem. Let's get them off. Let's get to work. First thing we're going to do is de-string it and clean it. It needs to be cleaned badly. I mean, really badly. This is a string through the body, which I kind of dig. One of my basses is like that. My oldest bass is like that of, I don't know, I think it's 30-something years old now. And yeah, you guys can debate that online ad nauseum, but yes, it really does help sustain and stability in tuning instead of just going through there. Hopefully all his body ferrules will stay put. It seems like they will. None of them are loose. Body ferrules, I mean by those little guys right there. Sometimes they just fall out. I learned that the hard way 30 years ago with my jazz bass that had string through. Yeah, really dirty. Really dirty. First thing I'm going to do is spray this neck and let it set, because some of this stuff really needs to be loosened, and we're going to scrub it really well. Many of you have seen this process before. There's my soap right there. Let's get our brush out here. Don't be afraid. Just use a non-petroleum, non-silicone soap. It's just simple cleaner, but don't use anything with petroleum that's petroleum based or has silicone in it. It's just going to give you a heartache later on. So I'm going to scrub it, and then I'm going to spray it again. I'm going to wipe it and spray it again. I could see a lot of stuff. It's going to take a couple of cleanings. You can already see. Watch this. Watch this. This is where you really see how dirty it is and how much stuff is going to come off. A lot of goop right here. That must be where he plays a lot. But like I said, it's going to take a couple. Jeez, do I need to say it? Clean your instrument every once in a while. Clean your instrument once in a while. We're going to do that whole process twice. Much of it did come off, but we're going to do it twice. The second one I'm going to let sit on there just for a few minutes. I know I probably don't need to let you see this, but I haven't seen one this dirty in a while. That stuff gets everywhere. And then, of course, the next step later on is going to be to oil up this board really well. I'm going to let this one sit on there a little bit. I'm going to scrub it, spray it one more time, because I can still see some stuff that's just stuck on the board, and you can't have it. Can't have it. It's nastiness. I'm going to have to come up with a different way to do this, or a different place to do it, because it just makes a mess. That stuff is splaying all over everything. I'm going to have to chastise my customer a little bit. Look, Yahtzee. All right, let's get after the body a little bit, because, yeah, damn. just needs a little love. I'm going to show you this part of it really quickly, and then I'm going to pause just to save some video time because we do have a full setup to do on this. I don't think I'm going to be able to do the whole thing in one video. I'm going to try, but you can see where I'm going with this. Look at the difference already. I mean, just look at what came off of it, just off the body. I mean, my God. You change your underwear every day, don't you? Clean your guitar every once in a while. Just another tip from your Uncle Blackjack. Yeah, I'm going to pause because I'm going to spend some time cleaning this up. It's going to need a couple of different processes to get it at least presentable. I'll never be able to make it new again, but we're going to get it really, really close. So I'm going to pause and let me go to town on this thing and clean it up. Stand by. So elapsed time was about 25 minutes. I spent just wiping the guitar down and cleaning 80% of the gook off of it. And you saw what we did on the board. Look at how bleached out that board is. Now, you know, this is where I really tout the oiled linseed oil. I know I sound like a broken record sometimes, but this is why. Because, damn. Yeah. It just is not necessary. This is what happens when you let a fretboard go. This is going to take at least 2 applications. This is some dried out wood here. And if you think it doesn't matter, well, it does. This is a process that you just have to do every once in a while. Look at the difference already. Just look at the difference between that bleached out section and that. And I'm not even done with it. It still has to be finished. I have never let one of my basses ever get bleached out like that. That's not good for the wood. You know, you're just shortening the guitar's life and its usability. And you guys can argue that until the cows come home. I'll never change the way the guitar plays. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And again, I hate to keep doing this to you, but I'm going to apply this and I'm going to let it sit on there and come back in a half an hour or so, because this oil really needs to soak down into the wood. It's going to take a little bit of time to bring it back to life. We're going to have to apply it relatively thick and let it sit on there. Because, damn, look at the difference already. I mean, you can see that this guitar is going to come, at least that portion of it is going to come back alive. But I have to let it sit. I can't just wipe it off because it may bleach back not as bad as it was, but maybe halfway. And we may still wipe this off and have to treat it again. So stand by. So yeah, wow. Really, really, really need to do a lot of work on this board. I polished I oiled it, wiped it, polished the frets, oiled it again, wiped all that off, let it sit, and I oiled it again. And this is the 3rd application I'm wiping off. So I think now I'm happy with it. But you can see how much stuff. That's green stuff. Those 2 lines right there. That's green goop that was coming off of the frets. I had to clean them twice. elapsed time was 45 minutes. I've been working on these frets and the board, and between each work on the fret wires, I oiled the board again, and now we're starting to get it back. It shouldn't look green like that. That's more than tarnish. Tarnish is bluish, but it's a combination of tarnish and mold. So these frets and this board were, in dire need of some care. I've spent most of the time so far working on the fretboard, and it's okay. It happens. I understand this guitar, and there was a lot of piled up in, like, wherever the strings went down, a lot of piled up DNA and finger skin matter that builds up on the board with oil and sweat and acid, and I had to scrub that off. You saw that process, or maybe you did or didn't, but I had to do it several times. It just took a lot of work to get it back to this, and now you can see it's got a nice color back to it. It's not pale, or it doesn't look bleached anymore. And there was just, now there's dust all over everything on the body and the pick guard that I cleaned because I've been after it for so long. I've seen them like that before, and even much worse, believe it or not. So this wasn't the worst one, but you can see the difference now. No more bleachy look. It's nice and dark and deep like it should be. The fret's got some wear on them. The board has got some character. It's got its color back, so I think we're ready to proceed. With cleanup, we're pretty much done. I'm gonna kind of do the same thing I did on the other guitar that he dropped off. I'm gonna call the cleanup process part 1, and because it really needed a lot of extra effort just to get it to this condition before I can move on to restringing it and doing a setup, because it had been let go a little bit, I think, and I'm not afraid to say that. But you know what, I've let, not recently in recent decades, but when I was on the road, man, with my traveling band of misfits, all I did was play the cowboy snot out of my guitars and hand them off to a guitar tech that did everything that I'm doing here today. In fact, that's, it was 2 decades ago. But I watched and I learned. And then at one point, I decided, why am I going to pay anybody else to work on my guitars when I can do it myself? And this is what it takes sometimes. Just some elbow grease. That's a whole video, just an elbow grease to get this instrument back up to where now I'm ready to put strings on it and do the mechanical setup. And I'm going to stop there because, going on to that next stage is going to be a whole video in and of itself, and a whole tutorial, what have you, a whole session with this guitar. So, like Jack with 396 guitars, you never know what you're going to find, and you never know what you're going to get into once you start working on an instrument, so be prepared for that. This video is only 20-something minutes long, but I've spent over an hour on this guitar. Well over an hour, closing in on 2 hours already, just cleaning it and getting it prepared to do a setup. So this is part 1. Stand by for part 2.